So I'm going to bring out 5 different styles. They vary vastly in terms of just the overall energy and what I call voice to it, but they also vary in the type of things that they can do. It's easier to show you than it is to explain that, so you kind of hear the difference and you know what I'm saying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play all of them for you. I may give you a little bit of general information, especially if there's something on it that I think it's important on. If it's not straightforward and it's like a little trick or something on how to play it, I might bring that up. But other than that, I think it's actually more profound if I just explain through playing, because it's better shown through that than it is through words. So first I'm going to pull out is this one right here. It's a 2.5 octave B flat. It isn't diatonic, but at least it's B flat, so it's a nice minor key. You can still do a lot with it. One of the more common ones to find. It is more modern, but it's got a nice ancient style fipple to it, which I appreciate. It's not overbearing, it's not too loud, it's very meditative, so we're going to do this one first. This is a Gemshorn. It's a wee bit loud, so you may want to turn your volume down for this, I don't know. In fact, if I'm too close to the camera, it will actually blow out the speaker and warp the pitch, so I'm going to have to probably get a little further away for this one. This is a C sharp, and it's, well, it's C sharp if you don't put your finger on that, but it ends up being C major, I think, if you've got your finger. So it's got a few extra notes. One good thing about this is that, you know, have you ever tried to do that balancing act of that top note and it's like so there's a back note here. Instead of having to take your hand off of that, you can keep that as an anchor, and you can take your thumb off and it's the same top note. So that's a nice feature about it. I rarely ever use the bottom 2 notes, but I feel like, you know, or the very bottom note especially, but I feel like it's still quite useful. I just personally never really. So anyway, altogether it's got 8 main notes, and if you count that little major and minor, it's 9. Again, diatonic, you know, really modern scale, but it's got a nice minor key, and Gemshorns are really nice energy wise. They got a really nice mystic sound to them. It's a sound to it that really I've not ever heard in any other flute. It's very unique, and if you're going for the voice of it, you definitely might want to check out Gemshorn, because just the voice alone. Now most of them are made of domestic cattle horn, which is what this is. It's eco-friendly, but some of them, you know, they salvage everything, and but some of them actually made of clay if you'd rather prefer that. So we're going to see how this one sounds. This is one of my favourites. It's some Norse style penny whistle. It's 1.5 octaves. It's E flat / D sharp, and that's a really nice, mystical, eerie sounding, you know, just very spirited sounding key. I really like that key. So it's a more Odin style of that. It's a minor. It's kind of like a minor version of a diatonic, I think, scale. I'm not totally sure on that, but I do think it's an older minor style version of that. The guy who made this is legit Norse, so that, if that tells you anything. And it's just a really nice voice to it, especially the way the notes, you know, it's just the only bad thing about it is it takes a lot of breath control. It requires a lot of breath, especially in the second octave, but other than that, I mean, it sounds beautiful. This is one of my probably favourites of all time because it's in a pagan scale, a true pagan scale. It's not like you have to force it to be in that. Some pentatonic scales, like, you know, you could say you could take an Arabic pentatonic and you could force it to do pagan sometimes by doing a whole bunch of half steps and things like that. But this actually is meant for pagan music. The only half step that's mandatory isn't to try and correct a note. It's just 2 notes in one. So you do use both these notes. But when you're doing this scale, you know, you'll have to do a half step on that before you fully take off your finger. You just as you play, that's the only trick to it. And I won't say they're all like this, but this one just happens to be like this. So as you're playing, you know, you're gonna have to take it half the way off before you take it off fully. This one, you know, you don't necessarily have to do that, but you can just kind of roll it, you know, a bit. But either way, you're going to need to do that half step, like, for it to make sense, okay? So, it's not many people make it anymore in that pagan scale, and that's why I really like it. It's also a drone. It's a nice meditative growling drone, so it's not too overwhelming. And if you don't understand what I mean by that, you will in a minute. Again, it's easier to play it to explain than it is to say it. So I'm just gonna show you. something like this that is crafted out of a raw tree branch is forest flute or forest ocarina, really any forest woodwind if you want to be safe. And I've got another one as the last that I'm going to be doing, and it is also a forest flute. Technically what we just did is an ocarina, but they sound quite similar. Made out of a raw branch is something I really appreciate. I can always appreciate things that are made out of, because that's the ancient pagan way to do it, and that's a lot more heartfelt that way than something made of a block wood. So this one is, if I didn't say before, the one I just did was a D minor pentatonic. This one is a G sharp. I'm not exactly sure what scale it is, to be honest. It's some kind of Mixolydian scale, I think. I don't even know how to say that. It's definitely not pentatonic. Here we go.